7 Samsung soundbar mistakes you must avoid in 2026. Your Samsung soundbar might not be the problem. You spent hundreds of dollars on a Samsung soundbar expecting your TV to sound bigger, clearer, louder, and more immersive. Maybe you even bought a model with Dolby Atmos, a wireless subwoofer, rear speakers, or Samsung features like Q-Symphony. But here's the problem. Even an expensive Samsung soundbar can sound surprisingly average if it isn't set up correctly. And that's what makes these mistakes so dangerous. You might think your soundbar is defective. You might think Dolby Atmos is overrated. You might think your subwoofer is too weak. You might even start looking for another soundbar. But before you spend another dollar, there are 7 common mistakes you need to check first. Some of these mistakes take less than a minute to fix. Others completely change how your soundbar interacts with your TV in your room. So in this video, we're going through 7 Samsung soundbar mistakes you absolutely need to avoid in 2026. And number 7 is especially important if you bought your Samsung soundbar for Dolby Atmos or gaming. Mistake number 1. Using the wrong connection. Let's start with one of the biggest mistakes: connecting your Samsung soundbar through whatever cable happens to be available. A lot of people see HDMI, optical, Bluetooth, and other connection options and assume they are basically the same. They aren't. If your TV and soundbar support HDMI ARC or eARC, that connection is usually the one you should be looking at first. Samsung itself recommends HDMI for high-quality audio connections, and eARC can provide greater bandwidth than standard ARC for supported formats. And this becomes especially important when Dolby Atmos enters the picture. Imagine buying a premium Samsung soundbar specifically because you want immersive Atmos sound, only to connect it in a way that prevents you from getting the audio format you expected. That's like buying a sports car and driving it everywhere in first gear. The soundbar might be perfectly capable, but your connection is holding it back. So the first thing you should do is check the HDMI port on your TV. Look for the port labeled ARC or eARC. Then check the HDMI connection on your Samsung soundbar. And don't just plug the cable into a random HDMI port because it fits. The correct port matters. If your TV and soundbar support eARC, make sure eARC is enabled in the TV settings as well. Samsung notes that eARC may need to be activated and that compatible HDMI cabling is required. This one mistake alone can make a premium soundbar setup perform far below its potential. Mistake number 2, thinking Dolby Atmos automatically means amazing Atmos. Here's where a lot of people get fooled. You see the words, Dolby Atmos, on the box. You connect the soundbar. You play a movie, and you expect sound to start flying around your room. But Dolby Atmos is not magic. Your soundbar needs the right connection, the right settings, compatible content, and an environment where the sound can actually work effectively. Samsung's current guidance says Dolby Atmos on supported soundbars requires an HDMI connection, with the appropriate TV settings and compatible content. So if your Atmos sound doesn't feel impressive, don't immediately blame the soundbar. First, check whether your TV is actually passing the appropriate audio format. Then check the sound output settings. Then check the content. Not every YouTube video, TV show, movie, or game is automatically giving you a Dolby Atmos signal. And here's another important point. Atmos is not simply about volume. Turning the soundbar louder doesn't magically create better height effects. The goal is to create a larger, more convincing soundstage where effects can appear around you and, with supported hardware and room conditions, above you. That means the setup matters just as much as the logo on the box. Mistake number 3, putting the soundbar in the wrong position. This mistake looks simple, but it can seriously affect the experience. People buy a soundbar and put it wherever it fits. Maybe it gets pushed inside a cabinet. Maybe it sits too far below the TV. Maybe part of the soundbar is blocked. Or maybe the TV stand is so deep that the soundbar is practically buried. That can work against the entire design of the soundbar. Think about it. Your soundbar has speakers that are designed to project sound into your room. If you place the soundbar somewhere that blocks or interferes with that projection, you're making the job harder. And with Dolby Atmos models that use upward-firing speakers, placement becomes even more important. You don't want to treat a soundbar like a random Bluetooth speaker. The space around it matters. Keep the front of the soundbar unobstructed. Place it close to the TV in a sensible position. And if your model uses upward-firing speakers, avoid putting something directly above it that could interfere with the sound path. Samsung's own buying guidance emphasizes that soundbar configuration and room placement affect the surround experience. This is also why copying somebody else's setup exactly isn't always the answer. Their room might be completely different from yours. A soundbar that sounds incredible in a large open living room may behave differently in a small room with low ceilings, reflective walls, or furniture blocking the sound. So before blaming your Samsung soundbar, look at where you placed it. Mistake number 4. Ignoring the subwoofer placement. Now let's talk about the part of your Samsung setup that people often treat like furniture. The subwoofer. You see a wireless subwoofer, put it in a corner, and forget about it. But placement can change how the bass feels in your room. The subwoofer handles the low-frequency energy that gives you those deep explosions, powerful movie effects, music bass, and gaming impact. And while low frequencies are less directional than higher frequencies, the room itself can dramatically affect how bass behaves. Put the subwoofer in the wrong location and you might get boom bass in one seat and weak bass in another. You might even start increasing the bass level because you think the subwoofer is too weak. But sometimes the problem isn't the bass level. It's the room. Samsung describes subwoofers as boosting low-frequency sounds and notes that their non-directional nature provides flexibility in placement. So experiment. Try a few reasonable positions. Listen from your normal seating position. Then compare. And if your wireless subwoofer suddenly stops connecting properly, don't immediately assume it has failed. Samsung's support guidance recommends checking power, connections, interference, positioning, and pairing when troubleshooting wireless subwoofer or rear speaker connections. The goal isn't simply more bass. The goal is better bass. Mistake number 5. Turning on every sound mode. This is one of those mistakes that feels like it should make your sound better. Your Samsung soundbar gives you different sound modes: standard, adaptive sound, game mode, surround, and other processing options depending on the model. So you might think, if one mode makes things bigger, then another mode must make it even better. Not necessarily. Different sound modes are designed for different situations. A mode that works well for dialogue might not be the best choice for gaming. A mode that creates a larger presentation for regular TV might not be what you want for music. And sometimes adding too much processing can make the sound feel unnatural. The trick is not to find the setting with the biggest number or the most dramatic effect. The trick is to find the setting that matches what you're watching or playing. This is especially important for gamers. If you're playing a competitive game, clarity and positional information may matter more than simply making everything sound huge. If you're watching a cinematic movie, you may prefer a wider and more immersive presentation. So don't blindly turn every enhancement on. Test the modes. Use your ears. And give each mode a few minutes with familiar content before deciding. Mistake number 6. Ignoring Samsung features like Q-Symphony. If you have a compatible Samsung TV and Samsung soundbar, there may be features you're simply not using. One of the most important is Q-Symphony. The idea is that compatible Samsung TVs and soundbars can work together so that the TV speakers and soundbar contribute to the audio experience simultaneously. Samsung's current Q-Symphony 4.0 documentation explains that compatible TVs and audio devices can play together, although compatibility depends on the specific models. And that's the important part. Compatibility. Don't assume that because both products have the Samsung logo, every feature automatically works. Check your specific TV and soundbar models. If your setup supports Q-Symphony, it's worth testing. You may discover that you've been using your expensive Samsung soundbar without taking advantage of one of the features that makes the Samsung ecosystem interesting. And if you're using a non-Samsung TV, don't worry. You can still get excellent sound from a Samsung soundbar. Just don't assume Samsung-specific features will work the same way across every TV brand. Mistake number 7. Never calibrating or testing your setup. And finally, this might be the mistake that causes everything else to feel wrong. You install the soundbar, connect it, and never touch the settings again. That's a problem. Your room isn't the same as the showroom where the soundbar was demonstrated. Your seating position is different. Your walls are different. Your ceiling is different. Your TV position is different. Your furniture is different. And your listening preferences are different. So your soundbar needs to be treated like part of your room, not just another electronic device. Depending on the model, Samsung provides different sound adjustment and room-related features. Some systems also offer automatic or intelligent sound processing designed to adapt the experience. But don't rely entirely on automatic settings. Use them as a starting point. Then test familiar scenes. Use dialogue-heavy content. Use action scenes. Use music. Use a game. And listen from the position where you normally sit. If dialogue is hard to understand, fix that before simply increasing the master volume. If the bass is overwhelming, don't automatically assume the subwoofer is defective. If Atmos effects aren't convincing, go back through the connection, content, settings, and placement. The best soundbar setup isn't necessarily the one with every setting turned to maximum. It's the one that works together. Final, before you buy another soundbar. So let's quickly recap the 7 mistakes. Number 1. Using the wrong connection. Number 2. Assuming Dolby Atmos automatically means amazing Atmos. Number 3. Putting your soundbar in a bad position. Number 4. Ignoring subwoofer placement. Number 5. Turning on every sound mode without understanding what it does. Number 6. Ignoring features like Q-Symphony when your specific Samsung setup supports them. And number 7. Never properly testing and adjusting your setup. And here's the biggest lesson. Before you spend another few $100s upgrading your soundbar, make sure you're actually getting everything your current system can deliver. Because sometimes the difference between an average soundbar setup and an incredible one isn't a new soundbar. It's the way you connected it, the way you placed it, the settings you selected, and whether your TV, soundbar, content, and room are actually working together. So if you own a Samsung soundbar, go through these 7 mistakes before you decide that your system isn't good enough. And if this video helped you discover something you had set up incorrectly, let me know in the comments. Which mistake were you making? Because there's a good chance you're not the only one. And if you want more soundbar buying guides, Dolby Atmos tips, gaming audio setups, and honest audio comparisons, subscribe to Roost, because we're here to help you get better sound without wasting money.